May the words of my mouth and thoughts of my heart be acceptable before you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. Shalom and welcome all to our open forum for tonight. It is the 3rd of July in the year 2013. We are one day away from American Independence Day, July 4th. And I wanted to welcome you all here. I am, of course, your host, Ariel Tzadok. You find me online at KosherTorah.com. We are right now, as you all know, in the middle of a series on the teachings of the 18th century founder of the Third Hasidic movement, Rabbi Israel ben Eliezer, also known as the Ba'al Shem Tov. We're in the middle of his, I gotta consider, pretty cool teachings with regards to how to live a proper, righteous life. And in that respect, I really think we gotta lay down some foundational rules here. Ask yourself this. Here we are learning about righteousness and piety and drawing close to God and this and this and that and that. And let me ask you a question. Now, I really want you to think about this. We follow Torah. Now, what exactly is Torah? According to those people of a more religious Jewish persuasion, they will interpret the word Torah as specifically and exclusively as an expression of their ethnic and cultural and religious observances as outlined in the laws of the Jewish religion. Okay, that's one interpretation of Torah. However, from a wider understanding, based upon an ancient teaching of the sages, I repeat this in almost every lesson you'll realize, that it said, in the beginning God gazed into the Torah, and from the Torah created the universe. Meaning that everything in existence came forth from the Torah, and therefore everything in existence is connected to the Torah, and therefore we should be able to find the Torah and thus God in everything in creation. Which means that the Torah is something far more grandiose than just the ethical, ethnic, religious observances of a specific religion. Torah includes the laws of nature, the proper path, that which is right. Now, here I'm going to ask you a difficult question. We know that God, according to our beliefs, gave us the Torah at Mount Sinai and commanded us to observe His commandments. Now, there are many of the commandments today, pretty much the majority of them, we don't observe today. Did you know that there are 613 enumerated commandments, and pretty much only 248 of them are in any ways applicable in modern times? All the laws of biblical sacrifices, all the laws relating to the priesthood and to the monarchy, needless to say, haven't been in application for thousands of years. Now we can talk and discuss how we did that with the teaching of the Ba'al Shem Tov. How we apply those things today. We do things by looking for deeper meanings of morals and ethics and the like in them, and therefore by extracting those moral and ethical lessons, we apply them, and that's how we, in quote, observe those commandments. Got it. Now let me ask you again. Very difficult question. Would you observe the Torah if God didn't make you? Think about it for a second. There's an old midrash that teaches that at Mount Sinai, God lifted up the mountain over the heads of the people and said, you either accept my Torah or this will be your grave. Now, under such circumstances, let's use the correct word, of threat, most people would say, yeah, okay, got it. Let's put all the threats aside. Ask yourself a question. why do you observe? Now, what is the level of observance that I'm talking about? Not necessarily the applicable commandments today within the context of religion, but beyond that. Because bottom line, we observe, symbolically speaking, all 613 commandments in multiple different ways. Multiple different ways. Like I was saying before, we apply all kinds of ethic and morals, learning from and extrapolating from the words of Scripture. As such, would you do it if God didn't command you? Now, that's a dramatic pause here, because I really want you to think about it. Because if you look at religion, pretty much since its inception, it's always been rather coercive. If you don't do this, God's going to get you. And if you don't do this, God's going to watch you. Now, in biblical times, such coercion was in the immediate. If you don't do this, God's going to get you now. Well, God's kind of removed himself from that here and now and the visible. And therefore, rabbis speak of the world to come. So if that don't get you now, it's going to get you later. You better watch out. I know a number of religious people who say, well, if you do this or if you do that, something bad's going to happen to you. Oh, you know something? You're full of superstitious baloney. How many people do we know? Let's say, for example, someone who is Jewish, who is not religious, who does not observe the laws of the Sabbath, the holidays, kosher, or anything of the kind. Are they being struck dead by God? Do we see piles of ashes lining the streets of Tel Aviv and the cities of Israel? No. Not at all. It's ridiculous to think in such superstitious nonsense. Bottom line, if you or I were going to go and violate any of the rituals, we might blemish our souls. But we're not going to get a thunderbolt up the wazoo, if you know what I mean. Now, this is important because, again, I reiterate my question. Would you observe the laws if you didn't have to? Now, remember what the Torah is. It's creation. The laws of nature. The balance of the universe. For me, the answer is clear. I observe Torah because it is what it is. And in all due respect, it really has nothing to do with God. How can I say that? Oh my goodness. But it's true. Because the universe is created by God. I'm part of that universe. Think of it, if you want to, like Isaac Newton did, as a big machine. You have all the cogs and the wheels, and everything fits in and moves together like a big machine. Well, I'm part of that machine. Why would I want to mess up the whole machine? That's pretty ridiculous and dumb and stupid. Of course I'm going to do my share. Of course I'm going to do the right thing. And I don't need God threatening me to tell me. So therefore, if I'm in Mount Sinai, and God lifts up the mountain over my head and says, if you don't obey me, I'm going to drop it on your head. You know what I say? You know what? Go ahead, drop it on my head. If you think that I need to be coerced through threats, go ahead, drop it on my head. I'm not, you know something, so I'll die. Big deal. Oh, I'll put you in reincarnation for 1,000 generations. Okay, fine. I'm not interested in threats. Not from God and not from earth. I don't need threats. That's the point. When I observe, my message to you, we do it because it's the right thing to do, period. And you don't need to be threatened. And you don't need to be bribed with rewards. If you do these nice little ethnic things, you're going to go to Gan Eden, heaven. God's going to bless you. How many scrupulously religious people do we know, all religions in all due respect, who suffer? How many many scrupulously religious people do you know, God forbid, have had terrible accidents, terrible diseases, financial setbacks, deaths in the family, whatever. Happens all the time. And you might say, well, God's testing. You know something? I don't need God testing me, thank you. There's an old saying that is recorded in the Talmud in Tractate Sanhedrin with regards to the tribulations of the end of days. And the rabbi said, I don't want to live in the end of days. I don't want the blessings of living in the end of days. Keep it, thank you. I'm not interested. Oh, what wiser words could be spoken. I'm not interested in threats. I'm not interested in coercions. I'm not interested in bribes. I do the right thing because it's the right thing. It's my duty. And I endeavor to be diligent about it. I don't need Big Daddy hanging over my shoulder, waving his heavenly finger. Bad boy. That's how I treat the dogs. In all due respect. I want to believe that I have a little bit higher consciousness than my little sweet little puppy outside the door. So I want to believe. I might be wrong, but that's what I want to believe. We do what's right because it's right. And that's it. We don't do what's right for the sake of reward. We don't do what's right for fear of punishment. We do what's right because it is our duty. This is why you will hear me use the Japanese term Bushido, which was the code of the samurai. Now, I'm not talking about specific details of the Bushido code, but I'm talking about it in a more generic way, wherein which the way of the samurai, to quote Tennyson in The Charge of the Light Brigade, yours is not to question why, yours is but to do and die. We do the right thing simply because it's the right thing. Period. That is our honor, our dignity, our diligence. And this is not some weird teaching. I'm actually commenting now on the words I haven't even read to you yet from the Ba'al Shem Tov. Kol davar she'oseh ya'aseh b'zrizut ki b'kol davar yachol avodat Hashem. Everything that you do, do with diligence. Because you can serve God in everything. Oh, we're going to get into some interesting details. How to do proper poopy. Oh, really? Oh, that's disgusting. No, it's not. Everything is part of life. Everything has a way to it. A right way and a wrong way. A good way and a bad way. And you don't need, schooling to learn this. Common sense should teach us basic common things. Therefore, when it comes to serving heaven, I'm going to give you some of the best advice. Oh, some of you are going to get really upset, and I don't care. You want to know how the best way to serve heaven? Leave God out of it. How's that? Actually, it's an old Talmudic teaching where God says, if the people forget me, it's okay if they forget me as long as they obey my commandments. Because God's focus with us is what we call the mitzvot ben adam l'chaviro, the commandments between one another, how we live as decent human beings. We come to earth to learn how to be human. And again, you'll read in my Torah portion commentary for Parshat Matot. I'm going to speak all about that. It's going to be on KosherTorah.com. It'll be Matot 2013. For those who want to look it up, or if you're on the email list, you'll get it. Remember, it's a time-sensitive thing. So, live people, you'll get it tomorrow. And those of you listening and recording, you go look it up on KosherTorah. But again, my point is, diligence means we do what we do, like it said in Perek Avot, not for the sake of rewards, not even for the sake of coercions or threats of fear, but rather we do what's right because it is what's right. That's duty. And duty is honor. And that is discipline. And the discipline that we show towards the universe, otherwise known as Torah, is what we show in every little detail. So therefore, those of you who are my friends, students, listeners, we have a relationship simply because you're here and I'm here. That obligates me to interact with you in a way of respect and dignity. I might completely disagree with you on politics, religion, philosophy. What difference does it make? We could sit, we could argue, we could fight, but at the end of the day, ding! We do so with respect. This is a foreign concept today. So there's big issues today in the world. Same-sex marriages, abortions, and the like. Well, we're going to have different opinions about that. Those of us who follow Torah may be one, those who don't have another. But the issue is how we conduct ourselves. What we do and how we do it. You've heard all the phrases like taking the high road and all that. It's a matter of how to be diligent in dignity. And that is what it's all about. It has really nothing to do with our concept of an individual creator. We're not doing right to get brownie points in God's eyes. We're not doing what's right so God will know the difference between who's naughty and who's nice. Again, we're confusing God with Santa Claus. We do what's right because it's what's right, period. We act with respect. We act with dignity because this is our human obligation. I watch a number of these science programs on television. And one of the major focuses in certain programs is to show how we human beings are not so different evolutionary-wise and in behavior from our closest animal relatives like monkeys, chimpanzees, or other things and the like. Their intent in that understanding is that we are an animal no different from them. And as such, our animalistic behavior is only normal. Well, excuse me, I beg to differ. That which distinguishes us from the animal kingdom is that we do not behave like animals. We behave better. Because the universe within me and reflected around me teaches me that. And I don't have to stretch to the end of the universe and beyond to God to see it. That's why in this period of time called exile, we know only what's called the smallest of divine revelations. We call God, therefore, by the name Adonai, or by the name Elohim, which, mind you, is a reference to nature and the natural world. As such, we understand, recognize, and acknowledge the Creator, even though in all due respect, it's not like the Creator is interacting with us in any supernatural way like He once did in biblical times. You might, as if say, even though it's a ridiculous metaphor, I'll use it anyway, that God's stepped out of the room for a little bit. Well, obviously there's no such thing, and that's a metaphor, but nature takes its course. And if you learn from nature, HaTeva, numerical value the same as God's name Elohim, then you're learning about God. And when you learn about God, you're learning about Torah. And when you learn about Torah, then you learn about ourselves. And we learn about ourselves and we know what to do, and everything falls into place. You don't need to be coerced. And you don't need to be bribed. You just say, like the pieces of the machine that fit together, like the cogs to make the wheels go around, everything fits in, that's fine with me. Now, part of the revelation of life is to recognize and know and understand that there is a singularity underlying all that we know and see. We call it a life force energy. In the Torah, it's called Nefesh. In the Orient, it was called Chi. Wilhelm Reich called it Orgone. It's all the same. Life force energy. But I'm going to tell you an interesting little bit about it. Life force energy. The old Greeks would call it the ether, the Prima-Matter, the fifth element, the Hiuli, the Tohu. It is alive and it is conscious. It has will and it has purpose. And it, by definition, permeates everything in existence, including you and me. We call that the presence of God within everything. In other words, the Shekhinah. Now that's not a symbolic or a philosophical concept. It's an actual energetic force. And you want to see it in action? Well, go to a authoritative practitioner of Chinese medicine and learn about acupuncture. You know, they poke you with those little needles? And they show you how all the chi, the life force energy, which flows through the body, can be redirected from point A to point B, and it's real. It can change the chemical signals within the body. It can influence the central nervous system. Yes, it does. Do you know what pain is? Pain is a sensation which activates certain chemicals to go through the central nervous system and activate in the brain. It's pretty much what it is. I'm not all familiar with all the details of the different chemicals and the like. But I can take these little needles and I can poke you, and in such a way that all of those chemical interactions going in the brain don't happen. Now, any of you who have ever had major dental work, root canal, teeth pulled, you know you get a little shot called Novocaine, right? It neutralizes the pain. You don't feel what's happening. And then they can go in there and yank your teeth and drill your teeth and do whatever. You know what they do in China with acupuncture? Go online, go look up YouTube videos, you'll see. They can do open heart surgery by poking your chest full of needles, neutralizing the pain, and you can be completely conscious and aware where the doctor's digging into your chest and working on your heart. How is that possible? How could you even ask the question? How could you not know? This is the life force energy. If you could see it, you would see that it surrounds the earth like a band. And the color is what we call Tekhelet, sky blue. There is teaching that says, why is the string in the fringe in the edge of the garment called tzitzit? Why is there a string of blue? I said, well, the blue reflects the sea. The sea reflects the sky, and the sky reflects the throne of God's glory. That's all, of course, symbolic talk. But the life force energy, which is the source of all, the singularity underlying all, Elohim, nature itself, is blue in color. And it's a real energy, not just philosophical. So don't get philosophical, why is it blue? No, it is because it is. And that is why, in the commandment in the book of Numbers, we're commanded to put a thread of blue in the fringes that we wear on a four-cornered garment. And the Ba'al Shem Tov teaches from the 1700s, Keshimaniach Talit, Yiret Tekhelet, Pirush, Shetipol Alav Yir'ah. That when you look upon this blue thread, you should remember it life force, energy, the singularity, the Prima-Matter, the ether underlying all, the obligation that we have to remember our part in the universe to fulfill it. We don't think like this today. We think, don't give me this stuff. I want to do what I want to do and blank the rest. Who cares? Right? I'm going to live my life. I'm going to do what I want. Well, what happens when we have so many I's? Right? There's no we. The universe is actually a singular organic entity. Humanity is a singular organism, atom. As such, we are all parts of the greater whole. What would happen if a part of my individual anatomy became conscious and sentient and says, something, heck with this, I'm not going to be part of the body, right? I don't want to serve. I want to go off and do my own. You would think, well, that's ridiculous. But this is the way we act. We are the ridiculous ones. And therefore, when you are connected to the source, you recognize this and understand this. And this is how we come to the level of doing the right thing simply because it's right. Because we focus on the right, the source, the life force energy, which in Jewish tradition is archetypally projected into our vision and thus consciousness through the thread of blue on the fringe of the four-cornered garment, the tzitzit on the talit. Now, I find for the Ba'al Shem Tov to say this to be rather weird, prophetic maybe, because in his day, when these words could have been spoken or written, the thread of blue did not exist. It was a lost art, only discovered within the last couple of decades. The thread of blue today has been clearly, in my opinion, re-identified and is readily available. Might be expensive, but something, that's life. And as such, I encourage all Jewish men who wear the four-cornered garment called a Talit to have your fringes, your tzitzit, tied with the patil Tekhelet, the proper one. And that when you gaze upon the blue, remember that that blue is the aura of the planet Earth. It is the Prima-Matter, the Tohu, the Nefesh, the Chi, the Orgone. And that's what it is. And sometimes you need a little reminder. And it's exactly what the Ba'al Shem Tov is telling us. When we talk about the diligence and recognizing that God is in all things, every now and then you might need a wee bit of a reminder. And that's why we have the thread of blue. And now, to give us a little alternate understanding, the Ba'al Shem Tov writes, Kol ma shero'eh yizkur b'hakadosh baruch hu. Everything that you see should remind you of God, the singularity, the indwelling source. So you know something? In all due respect to heaven, we do not need supernatural hocus-pocus interventions in order to be convinced that God is our Lord. In all due respect to the great master Eliyahu Hanavi, we don't need fire from heaven to come down to burn up the altar. In all due respect, did that really convince anybody anyway? We don't need sound and light shows. What we need is just true diligence. So therefore, when we can recognize the concept, Malo kol haaretz kavodo, God's glory, the Nefesh, Prima-Matter, the Tohu, the original source here, chi, fills everything in the universe. Ein od milivado. We covered in our Bahir class the meaning of the word tohu, remember, void and desolation from Genesis 1-2. And we discussed that the Prima-Matter then acted upon what we call the four elements. And that's why we call the chi, Nefesh Orgone, the fifth element, source of life. That's underlying everything. And as long as that is there and that is conscious, and I am part of that and that's part of me, there you go. I'm connected. I know. I got it. And it's just natural. And that's why we do it. And everything, seek to see the natural order. I don't want to say God, because it's such a nebulous term, no one knows what it means anymore. You personalize it. Seek the natural order. Teva, otherwise known as Elohim, God. Remember it said in the beginning, Elohim, God created the heavens and the earth. That's Him. And as we recite on Yom Kippur, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, He is Elohim. Same thing. Seek it in everything. I've seen television programs, science shows, those are my favorite, which speak about traffic flow in major urban areas, which take an uncanny, similar view to the flow of blood through the veins of parts of the body. Whether we know it or not, we have created systems of movement amongst ourselves in the collective, cities and urban areas, which are paralleling that which is going on inside us biologically. Who would have known? But that is what it's all about. The Ba'al Shem Tov continues. If you love something, remember this is the love of God. If you are in awe of something, remember this is the awe of God. And this we know from many places, he says. Here's a big secret. Our human emotions, you go into Jungian psychology, teach you all about this, are projections of deeper things going on inside of us. Ask yourself, why are we attracted to or fall in love with whatever it is that we do? You can be in love with, obviously, another person, be your spouse, member of your family. Many people are in love with many other things, objects, pets, right? What is love? Think about it. Is it a selfishness that I want to possess, dominate, control, and rule and lord over this or that thing or person? If that is true, that ain't love. That's not love at all, especially if you're on the lower end of that totem pole. You know it darn well. There's an old saying, if you love someone, let them go free. And if they don't come back, it means there was never really love at all. And of course, there's the joke version, which states, if you love someone, let them go free. And if they don't come back, hunt them down and shoot them. But, remember that's a joke, so please, that might be your mentality. But look at the way people are not in love today. They're in possessiveness. That's not love. Real love is what you give, not what you expect to receive. And when you see things that you're in awe of, I love nature. I don't know how many of you have ever been to northern, or really central, California, to national parks like Sequoia, Yosemite, maybe into Utah, into Arches Park, or into Zion, or some of these other profoundly beautiful, awe-inspiring natural locations. Well, when I see that, even you come out here to where we are in the Smokies, not in the Cherahala. For those of you who know the local, we have the Bald River Falls. Beautiful area. Very, very beautiful. Some of you have been here. You know what I'm talking about. You go look it up on the internet and you get a picture. Lovely stuff. When I see the beauty in nature, I can draw no other conclusion but to see through it and say, obviously, somehow, somewhere, something is within this. Because in all due respect, nature is not beautiful. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So when I look at a natural phenomenon, and it emotionally triggers a response within me, I have to look into that emotional response and ask myself, why is this? What is this? What is this saying to me, and why? And when I think about it and contemplate it, it draws me back to the singularity, to the laws of nature, to God Elohim, to the indwelling presence called the Shekhinah, which we call in all of our prayers Adonai. So therefore, in everything that you find awesome, in everything that brings you joy through love, ask, penetrate, delve, seek beneath the surface of what you feel to ask why. What does it really mean to you? And you will find out that underlying all of our surface feelings are deeper things going on within us, which can point, if you will, a direction to the inner truths of the reality of what we've been speaking about. Diligence of knowing the natural way. And now, moving right along with that, how far does this go? Everywhere. In everything. Even to the way you poop. You see, what I call the ghost of heaven is in everything. When you penetrate deep within, you will see the underlying essence of the energy within. You will recognize it through an impression, a feeling, and a sense. Not necessarily some kind of an intellectual academic thought that you can philosophize and put into words. Something deeper. I call that heaven's ghost. A reflection of the Ruach of Shamayim. The spirit of heaven. The ghost of heaven. Same thing. And therefore, you will find that in everything. Even in the way you go to the bathroom. Did you know that there was actually in ancient times a ritual for how you went to the toilet? Do you know that to this very day there are laws about what to do and how to act in the boudoir? Now, I am not going to enumerate laws because you got to do it, and if you don't do it, God's going to punish you and God's going to get you. Remember, we don't think like that. But it should dawn on us that while we are doing our business, that we are in a different mode. We're not really asleep, but we shouldn't be fully awake either. It's not really proper to be doing our business in the boudoir while we are, let's say, for example, on the computer. Let's say you're sitting on the computer and you're typing an email. And, the call of nature comes. So you take your computer on your lap, and as you're doing a poopy, you're sitting there and continuing your email. Ew. Who does that? How many people take the phone into the bathroom with them? Double ew. Think about it. He states here, Afilu kesheholech lebeit hakiseh, even when you go to the bathroom, yachshov, halo ani mafrid ra metov. I am going to the bathroom to fulfill a natural obligation of separating bad from good. V'zehu yichudim. Interestingly, he calls this a meditative act, an act of joining. And the good stays to assist us. Yeah. When we are going to do our business, and number 2, a poo-poo, we are cleansing our body. Do you know it's considered a sin not to go to the bathroom when the call of nature arises? I hear it all the time. People will say, I'm watching a movie, or I'm doing this, so I'm not going to get up and go to the bathroom when nature calls. That can be physically very harmful. And it can be mentally distracting and even psychically or spiritually damaging. The call of nature, which is inherent within our flesh, is what binds us to the universe. And it follows its own course. When was the last time that you could defecate, go take a poopy, on demand? You're going to eat now at 6 o'clock dinner. Well, you know something? I got meetings all night tonight. I have classes. I'm on a date. I got this. I got that. Whatever. The only time I really have to go poopy is between the 10 minutes or 15 between my 8:15 and my 8:30. Do you really think you can poop on demand like that? No. No, you can't. Not really. Because defecation is a process that goes on within our body. Now, urination sometimes is quicker, and if you wanted to play around with urinating, you probably could do that. But that's not natural. That's my point. You gotta go when you gotta go. It's only natural. And therefore, there are actual laws of how this is supposed to be done. The Ba'al Shem Tov says that when a person is doing this, and he is properly balancing the heavens and the earth, following the natural ways, this is what causes what he calls here Nahat Ruach, which gives peace to heaven above. Because remember, if all of humanity is technically a singular organism, then so is the universe. And therefore, when we are all acting in proper conjunction with the inner and the outer, allowing the chi to flow naturally through our bodies, or to allow the Nefesh energy to radiate through our bodies, which in other words means to allow the Shekhinah to materialize and manifest through us. This is what it means to have God's Adonai, God's name Adonai, channel and flow through us. And this is the meaning of what it means to become a Merkavah, a throne or chariot through which the Divine Presence moves through us. And it's as simple and integral that includes how you go to the bathroom. Yeah, believe it or not. In ancient times, going to the bathroom was considered such an important task. It was believed in the olden days that literally human beings walked with angels, that there are higher, invisible entities who escorted us through life. And that when we went into the outhouse, because remember, we didn't have indoor plumbing so much in those days, we would be going into a place where in which there would exist entities and energies that would literally be able to siphon out whatever life force energy is left in feces. And we call those the kohot hatumah, the unclean forces. Now, you all know that feces still has energy in it. It's great manure. It feeds lower life forms. And yet for us, once it's out of our system, it's taking out all the refuse of our system. No good for us, but it's good for others. So, understand then that whatever life force energy that is left in the feces, there are other entities and forces in this universe which siphon it off. So the feces is alive. It's got energy. But we are obligated by nature to move it out of us. And so therefore in ancient times, we would say a affirmation, if you will, a statement to the entities escorting us, pretty much saying, be honored, all honored ones, wait here outside the bathroom, because I must go in and exit out, because this is the way of all flesh. Hit kavedu mikubadim kodeshim sharate elyon. Shamruni, shamruni, imtinuli ad shekenes ve'etze ki ken darakam shel bnei adam. That little order, that little prayer, hasn't been the common practice to recite 2,000 years. But the later Kabbalistic traditions of Rabbi Shalom Sharabi, as recorded in a famous code to the Jewish Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law, by Rabbi Yaakov Sofer, called the Kaf HaChaim, he says to say it quietly, privately, amongst oneself, because he says that by doing so, we therefore remember our place in the greater universe, and that even a little thing is poopy has to be done properly, proper focus, like everything else. Now, not everybody has, or I should say, follows the traditions of the Kaf HaChaim. You don't really have to say that. But when you do go to the bathroom, you should consider that you are actually performing a profoundly universal performance. You are allowing nature to take its course. Nature, Elohim, God. You're allowing God to flow in the universe. And that's the way you do it. So therefore, even the act of removing feces from your body becomes an expression of remembering God and subservience to heaven. And therefore you technically don't need to be thinking, God, I'm doing this for you, brownie points, or whatever. No. It's the natural order. I fit into the natural order. I'm part of it all, and that's the way we do things. Thank you very much. Now, even when we go to sleep at night, the Ba'al Shem Tov writes, כשהולך לישון, יחשוב הלא המוחין שלו ילכו לקדוש ברוך הוא, יתחזקו לעבודתו יתברך. And when you go to sleep, contemplate that your brains, as he calls them, they go to God. And there they are strengthened for the divine service. Scratch your head on that one and go, huh? What is the purpose of sleep for human beings? Don't you dare make the mistake to think the body needs rest. Because in all due respect, the purpose of sleep is not rest for the body. You want the body to rest? You can sit down, lie down on a nice comfy couch, kick your shoes off, put your feet up, and you can sit there listening to my class or watch television or whatever you do. Your body's at rest. It's not moving. You want to say it's a rest for the mind? Go and look at all these EKGs, whatever they stick to the brain during sleep, with rapid eye movements and everything. Brain's very much active. But it's a different kind of activity. Why then does the body need to sleep? Answer is because consciousness, it says here, your mochin, your sentience, your consciousness needs to, if you will, go back to its source in what we call higher consciousness, going back to its source in the natural world. Because remember, that which we call our consciousness, our souls, is not indigenous to this planet. Our souls are the true extraterrestrials, are the true aliens. We are the ones that come and possess these bodies of flesh in the spirit of the most, advanced science fiction movies that you ever see on TV, or theater in the case may be. We're the aliens. Our souls, that is. And as such, our time in this body. We can only take so much for so long. And we need to go back to our source. And in that source, we're still connected to the body. But instead of being overwhelmed by the sensorial experiences from outside the body, we are active in involvement with the inner sources. This is what it means when it says your brains go back to God to be strengthened for divine service. Now, dreams can come from numerous different sources. We all know that. You can have a really weird dream because you ate a pizza before you went to bed at night. Or something similar. The things that you think about during the day can come back in your dreams at night. Or you can have an actual, real, deeper dream. We always try to encourage people that when we're going through the natural process of sleep, to try to focus on sleep as if it is a journey. The body is going into, pause mode. That's why they call it even on the computer, sleep mode. So that our consciousness can travel into a different world. A world which the higher mind knows all so well. And we learn there. We are, to use a computer term, programmed there. I always tell people, don't worry whether or not you remember the dreams that you have when you wake up or understand their interpretation. Because bottom line, when we're in that altered state, we are instructed, guided, and taught. We are programmed, to use a good term, so that when a time comes, a circumstance which has already been foreseen, could be days, weeks, or years in the future, somehow something within us, if we're in touch with it, says, act like this but not like that. It could be a warning to keep us safe. It could be information to be a blessing to prosper us. Or somehow to go somewhere and have a chance meeting which could lead to, beautiful things. Somehow, somewhere, something inside of us is guiding us. And when we remember this, focus on this as we go to sleep, and try to cultivate a sensitivity of it, we can indeed become more aware of that which is happening to us during the day. So, Ba'al Shem Tov continues. Kodem hashena yishka be'ema v'yirah v'yargiz v'yirad be'emat haboreit barach. As you're going to sleep, try to contemplate the things that we've been talking about. The singularity of life, of nature, how we're all part of it, how we don't need to be thinking mythologically, superstitiously, but rather we want to do what's right because it is right. We want to know it, sense it, intuit it. And he says, if this is your focus and your way, lo yavo lidehet, you will not come thereby to sin. And he quotes here the verse from Psalm 4, verse 5, "Regzu v'al tahatu." Be awe-inspired, if you will, and you won't sin. What is a sin? Making God mad at you, oh, thunder and lightning. Oh, come on. Let's be realistic, please. Let's stop the fairy tales. A sin means to blemish yourself and the universe around you. If you would, think of the universe as a canvas upon which you are painting, and somebody throws a blotch of paint on your masterpiece, messes it up, right? It's really bad. You got to remove it, you got to repaint, etc., and so on. Restoration, tikkun in Hebrew. It's a big deal. Wouldn't it just be nicer if we could know what's right, be what's right, do what's right, and therefore everything just flows natural in the ballet of the universe with the orchestra of life with all the musical instruments, each one different from the other, playing together in a greater harmony. Just like all the different parts of our physical body come together to serve as one. Now think about this. Your body, like mine, is made up of billions of individual cells. Your cells obviously are alive. They have some semblance of consciousness to know what they are and what they need to do. If we could ever set up a communication with an individual cell. Hi, you're a cell. You're a part of my body. Do you think the cell would understand the concept? Do you think the cell could understand that it's part of a greater body? Does the cell know its universe of the entire body itself? But the cell is doing its job. It knows that it's got to do this. It knows it's got to do that. The cell is going to be, in quote, born, and eventually it will die. We are the individual cells. The cell doesn't sit back to think about itself selfishly. It's part of the whole and acts naturally. We are the only ones that don't. And therefore our purpose and our focus here is to get back to the natural. Hateva. Elohim. Adonai our God. And everything that we've been talking here is practical examples of how to take all these deep, mystical, Kabbalistic, philosophical ideas and to bring them down to earth. Start off by being diligent. Observe your obligations because they're what's right to do. Don't think of receiving a reward or being punished, or if you don't. You do it because you need to do it. That's your obligation done. Contemplate the singularity of the universe. If you need to, put blue, the Tekhelet, in your tzitzit. Focus that even in the most mundane things like pooping, we are still performing a divine natural function. Focus on this when you go to sleep. Focus on this when you're awake. And therefore, transform our lives. Pretty much that's what it's all about. These are the teachings of the Ba'al Shem Tov. That's why I consider these to be so generic and universal. I don't think that it's just ethnic or cultural. I think these are the natural way. And that's why God bless, that's why we're learning them. So on that note, I should say, let me conclude here. We kind of ran out of time for tonight's class. I want to thank you all for joining me. And I pray I'll see you all in our next class. We're going to pick up and continue to talk about other similar things. Thanks again all for joining me. I'm your host, Ariel Bar Tzadok. I'll see you online at KosherTorah.com. Thanks again. God bless. Shalom. 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 God bless. Shalom.